Hi everybody, today's the day where I'll be taking you through an analysis of Noel Gallagher's current Oasis Live 25 reunion guitar rig. I'll be talking about all of his guitars that he uses. I'll be talking about his current pedals and pedalboard setup, including a small chart that I made in regards to the signal flow. I'll be talking you through his current amplifier lineup, show you how I think all is connected, and last but not least I'll be doing a demo with my own setup. I have kind of the similar or a same pedal setup as Noel does, and I'll be taking you through his sound or recreating his sound using my own setup. Also, this video is a follow-up to a video that I made a few months ago that showed all of Noel Gallagher's live guitar amplifiers throughout the years. And if you don't have a certain set of vocabulary that a guitarist might know, like what's an amplifier combo or amplifier head, or what does it mean if an amplifier is mic'd, I highly recommend you to watch this video. I'll link it up top, and then you'll be able to follow along this video much better. Now, this is the first time ever we do have access to high resolution images of Noel Gallagher's current guitar rig. Because even in the last Oasis tour, the Dig Out Your Soul tour, there were a few pictures of Noel's pedalboard, and a few pictures of his amplifiers, but you couldn't see the settings, you couldn't see the labels on the pedalboard itself. This is now all different. We do have access to high resolution images, all thanks to a few members on Instagram, especially all thanks to Bonehead, who really did an amazing job of providing us with high resolution images of his own rig as well as Noel's rig. Now let's quickly talk about guitars. Noel uses 3 electric guitars plus 1 acoustic. Now before we jump into detail on all of Noel's guitars, I have to give credit where credit is due. I've linked a website down in the description which is a must read for all Oasis and Noel Gallagher fans. It's called The Chief's Guitars, and this guy who runs this website does an amazing job of researching all the guitars and even pedals and amplifiers that Noel uses. Also Bonehead and Gem. And if you want to stay up to date, make sure to visit the website down in the description, The Chief's Guitars. Now let's start off with the black Gibson Les Paul with P90s. This is a special guitar because it's the one guitar that started off the Oasis reunion. It was played during Hello on the first night in Cardiff where Oasis took the stage after 16 years of being split and being apart. There's an article on Gibson Gazette about this guitar. I'll link it down in the description as well. Presumably Gibson worked on this guitar together with Noel for at least 18 months. Gibson at first didn't know that this guitar was made to be for the Oasis 25 reunion tour. Basically Noel wanted a cross between a Les Paul and his Epiphone Casino with P90s that he started to get used to during the last Council Skies High Flying Birds tour. This guitar was specially designed for Noel to be as loud as it could be and to be able to cut through the other guitars in Oasis, because for the first time ever Oasis is a 3-piece guitar band during this Live 25 reunion tour. So this guitar was made to be stadium ready from day one. It's based on a 1960s Les Paul standard with humbuckers, but with the humbuckers were swapped out for P90s instead. It's got a slim taper neck profile. Keep in mind Noel really likes slim necks. That's also what he said during his interview at that pedal show. It's got a maple top, a mahogany body with light aging from Gibson's Murphy Lab, although the aging was increased by the Murphy Lab throughout these 18 months because Noel was requesting to be more and more aged throughout the time. The P90 pickups are quite standard from the Gibson Custom Shop. The pickup covers are made from aged nickel, which gives this guitar its distinguished look. Now, in the initial notes for this video that I wrote down a few weeks ago, I was writing down that I'm quite certain that Gibson will eventually make a signature run of these guitars. Well, breaking news, Gibson will be doing a limited signature run of these guitars, and they will be on sale at Gibson Garage in London at August 21st, 2025. if I'm not mistaken. Now, the black Gibson Les Paul with P90 pickups was used on Hello, Acquiesce and Bring It On Down, although Noel seems to prefer the Sunburst Les Paul for Acquiesce since the Manchester shows. Let's start about the Sunburst Les Paul, or shall I say Sunburst Les Pauls, because from a backstage image that we can see that somebody took of Noel's guitar riser, there seem to be about 3 Sunburst Les Pauls there, so yeah, maybe he's playing one for different songs, and yeah, but in general I'll be referring to them as the Sunburst Les Paul. It seems to be the same Les Paul that Noel played during the 2000s and most notably the Familiar to Millions shows, but this is just a guess from my end. It seems to be a model based on a 1959 Burst Les Paul. It might as well be that Gibson also made a custom shop version, reissue version of this guitar. My guess is that this is a newer Murphy Lab model with light aging, but this is just my guess. I mean, why not? Noel could afford hundreds of these guitars. The Sunburst Les Paul is used for Acquiesce, some might say Cigarettes and Alcohol, Roll With It, Do You Know What I Mean, Slide Away, Live Forever and Rock and Roll Star. Next up is Noel's trusty Gibson ES355. Yeah, what would Noel be without his Gibson 355? That's his signature look, that's his signature guitar. I was waiting for the moment that he would bring it out. Luckily it was the 3rd song in Manchester, it was Morning Glory where he played this guitar. I think he brings at least 2 Gibson 355s. I also think that one of them is his original one, number 1, his main guitar from the 60s, and the other one might be a signature model, yeah, one of these 200 guitars that Gibson made, also in the Murphy Lab, but this is just speculation from my end, because I mean, everything needs a backup, right? At professional stadium level gigs, everything needs a backup. Guitars, pedals, amps, pedal boards, etc. Everything needs a backup. Noel uses this guitar for Morning Glory, Fade Away, Supersonic, Little by Little, Stand By Me, Don't Look Back in Anger and Champagne Supernova. Now, the ES355 Noel uses for 7 songs and the Les Pauls for 10 songs, approximately, depending on the show and depending maybe on his mood this day. So Noel tends to prefer Les Pauls at the minute, or he prefers the sound of a Les Paul for more songs than he prefers the sound of the ES355 for. So that's an interesting take on that. Now next up for acoustics, Noel brings 3 acoustics in total. I think 2 of them are in natural finish, standard Gibson SJ200 model, I guess. Also he brings his Gibson J150, which might be his original one or one of his signature models as well. I think all of them are pretty stock models. They're all Gibson Custom Shop, of course. Most probably they have an LR Baggs Anthem pickup in it, because Noel seems to prefer these kinds of pickups. And I think it's going directly, maybe through some DI magic, to the front of house. Now the songs, all of the acoustic ones of course, Talk Tonight, Half the World Away, Cast No Shadow, Whatever, The Master Plan and Wonderwall, plus the intro of Do You Know What I Mean, because for Do You Know What I Mean, after the intro part he changes to the Les Paul. Now in terms of his pedalboard, Noel again is faithful to pedalboards built by Mike Hill Services. He's been a customer at Mike Hill Services for the last 25 years, I guess. He started using them in the early 2000s. This pedalboard, I mean, it's a very, very beautiful pedalboard indeed. Now this pedalboard seems to have 14 available loops. A loop is something that you hook your pedal into and you have it engaged, and you press one of these silver buttons for this pedal's effect to be in use or in the signal. This dramatically reduces the signal flow when the pedals are not engaged. Basically, if none of these pedals are engaged, the signal just travels through a small section of the board and out to his amplifiers without having to travel through each pedal individually, even if the pedal is bypassed. This leads to just better sound quality in general. It's got a mic stand in the middle, and it's probably got at least 2 outputs, one for his main guitar sound and maybe one for the lo-fi loop junkies, which I'll be doing a deep dive on in a minute. Now let's start with the pedals, the deep dive on Noel's pedals from left to right. First we have the Cvex lo-fi loop junkies. They're used to play back short pre-recorded audio snippets that are distorted and kind of have a lo-fi feeling. The first one, which has the label DYK, which I think are for some weird sounds at the intro of Do You Know What I Mean. The second one is a label for CS, which stands for Champagne Supernova, which maybe is a loop that's playing at the outro of Champagne Supernova, this beautiful synth and swell sound. At least this is what I think it does. And the third one is one that we already know from previous Oasis tours. That one's labeled as RNR/B, which is of course the iconic That's Rock and Roll Baby from the outro of Rock and Roll Star. What's also really interesting detail here is that for the last Oasis tour, the Dig Out Your Soul one, Noel also had a dedicated button for a loop junkie that kind of did this helicopter sound that would have been for Morning Glory. Maybe for Morning Glory he also uses this this weird sound from Do You Know What I Mean, pre-recorded into that lo-fi loop junkie. Maybe, just maybe, we don't know for sure. But this is really a testament to how live this show is. They could easily mix in these audio snippets from the live mixing desk, but Noel prefers to have this control over these sounds at the push of a button below his feet. That's really a testament to the liveliness of these shows. Maybe you do have a lo-fi loop junkie, or maybe you do have a looper. One thing that I was always asking me is how you get these sounds into this looper, because yeah, maybe they're designed to have a guitar signal being fed to them. It's really quite simple. You just blast out the loop that you want to record with this pedal throughout a line out of your audio interface, something similar, and blast the signal out to the input of the lo-fi loop junkie or of the looper, and then you'll be able to play back these snippets indefinitely. Next up, pedals from left to right. Boss RV3 is a delay plus reverb pedal. I think this is an always on pedal for Noel, because nowadays he seems to play with in-ear monitors. Maybe he prefers the reverb from this pedal instead of some reverb they mix in at the live mixing desk maybe. It's controlled by a switch with the label REV/DEL for reverb/delay. Next up, the trusty Empress ecosystem. It's a modulation and really complex delay pedal. Hell knows which sound it generates. Maybe, just maybe, it's used to play the intro of Supersonic, because when I saw Oasis live in Manchester, I think I could hear some level of modulation in the intro of Supersonic. I'm not quite sure. Next up is also a pedal we remember from Noel's previous boards, is the SIB Echo Drive. This is Noel's most famous pedal. It's a tube delay that Noel uses exclusively to boost his signal. Now, I do have one of these pedals myself. If you want to know more about this pedal in an Oasis context, make sure to check out the video. I'll just link it up top there. And let's go over to the next pedal. It's the Strymon El Capistan. This is a tape echo emulator, maybe just to emulate Noel's early live sound, where they used the Roland Space Echo extensively. Next up is the Polytune. Well, there's no interesting facts about this tuner except that it's in its own dedicated tuner loop, which also serves as a mute for the whole signal, so that nothing can travel through when they do guitar changes, for example. Next up is the old faithful combination of the Cornish soft sustain 2 pedal and the Boss DD3, which serves as a solo sound for Noel. These two pedals are always engaged together. They hang in the same loop because the output of the soft sustain pedal is directly connected to the input of the Boss DD3 pedal. Next up is the BSM Finest treble booster. This is a boutique treble booster that seems to have replaced Noel's Boss GE7 that he used to do treble boost with at High Flying Birds. My guess is that he uses it to brighten up the very beefy and bottom-endy sound of the high watts. Next up is the Keeley Compressor Plus pedal. This is the first time Noel ever plays a compressor pedal in Oasis. Maybe he got used to this compressed sound of the guitar signal during the last High Flying Birds tour, the Council of Skies tour. Well, if it's an always on pedal or not, his guitar sound is just amazing, I have to say that. Next up is the Kingsley Page Tube Boost. This is an amazing boost pedal, probably the best boost pedal out there. It really works magic together with the SIB Echo Drive, really lifts the signal, yeah, and just makes it more, but in a very natural way, without kind of changing the overall guitar sound, without kind of changing the overall sound and characteristics of the amplifier. Same goes for the Echo Drive, by the way, as well. Next up, Strymon Timeline pedal. This is another staple on Noel's board. It's possibly again used on the melt settings for this kind of synth sound. Maybe also used purely for the end of Champagne Supernova with these swell and synth sounds at the end. Who knows? We don't have any details on that pedal or which settings it might have. If you know more, comment down below. Next one, the return of the wah pedal. Yes, finally Noel starts playing with a wah pedal. It's a Dunlop Crybaby Junior wah pedal. It's not a full-sized wah pedal, but it's in a more compact form factor. Maybe, just maybe, the smaller form factor of this pedal just suits Noel's small feet better. It's used for hello, do you know what I mean, and bring it on down. It's, yeah, what's very interesting that this is also in its separate loop, because normally you engage a wah pedal by just stepping on the pedal, engaging a button that's hidden underneath the plate where you put your foot. I think this pedal, it's always on, yeah, and it's hooked up to the loop button on the pedal board that says spare, yeah, because we can also see the output of the wah pedal being fed into the Mike Hill board, or one of the loops from the Mike Hill board. So I guess that whenever Noel wants to engage the wah pedal, he has to step on the button, on the loop button from his pedal board that says spare first, and then start off with his wah action. And before I forget to mention, what's also really interesting about Noel's current live pedal board setup is that there's no tremolo effect on there. So for little by little, he must play that without any tremolo effect. That's also a first, I guess. Next up, a brief overview of Noel's amplifiers, which I'll be going into detail later on in the video when I demonstrate Noel's signal path. Now for amplifiers, everything that we can see on stage is the following setup. Noel uses what seems to be two Highwood Custom 50 2x12 combo amplifiers with matching 2x12 cabinets on stage facing Noel. Now backstage there's kind of a different story going on, because there are more Highwood Custom 50 combos and also two Marshall amps which seem to be lower wattage combos. Maybe you spot a pattern there. Noel really likes to pair beefy Highwood custom amplifiers, be it 50 watts or 100 watts, with some smaller wattage amps. And maybe, just maybe, we can see a pattern there, because if we go back to the last Oasis tour, the Dig Out Your Soul one, he also used a beefy Highwood 100 watt combo amplifier with a lower wattage Fender Blues Junior amplifier. Same with the first 2 or 3 High Flying Birds tours as well, where he used a 100 watt Highwood combo as well as a smaller 15 watt Fender Blues Junior amplifier. Noel really seems to like this combination. Maybe we're onto something here. Now this concludes the first part of this video, which was an overview of Noel's live guitars, electric and acoustic ones, pedals and amplifiers. Now let's see how this is all connected and what Noel's signal flow might be. Let's start with the signal coming from the guitar, directly hitting loop 0. This is a loop for Noel's tuner, as well as a mute for all the signal. Then we're in the loop that's labeled spare, which I think is directly hooked up to the wah-wah pedal. Next up is the compressor, then is the treble boost. Next up is the echo drive, then the Kingsley Page tube boost. After that is the solo loop, and this loop is comprised of 2 pedals, of Noel's Soft Sustain 2 by Pete Cornish, as well as the DD3 delay. Next up is, I think, the El Capistan pedal. Next up the timeline, followed by the HM echo, which is the Empress echo system, and then loop 10 would be the reverb and the delay. I think it's used for reverb because there are more than enough delay pedals on on there already. And then we have the first of what I think to be two outputs, and the first output will hit an amp switcher. This amp switcher then distributes this wet signal to 4 amplifiers. These amplifiers are backstage. Backstage we do have 2 high-watt custom 50 combo amplifiers, as well as 2 Marshall 20-watt studio vintage combo amplifiers. I think the second of each amplifier pair is a backup. And this is a variation of Noel's classic high-watt and Blues Junior combination. So what's Noel's main sound then? I think his main sound is comprised by 4 pedals in total. His main sound that he uses 90% throughout the whole setlist must be the compressor, the echo drive, the page tube boost, as well as the reverb. Then hitting what seems to be a 4-way amp switcher, also designed by Mike Hill. Why do I know that? Well, Bonehead posted a picture of his own rig. Bonehead also plays 2 amplifiers in conjunction with each other, and we do see a Mike Hill custom amp switcher, 4-way amp switcher there as well. So I think that Noel uses kind of the same amp switcher. And this amp switcher then distributes the signal coming from Noel's pedalboard. It distributes it to 4 amplifiers, or it can distribute it to 4 amplifiers, with 2 amplifiers, 1 high-watt and 1 Marshall being engaged the whole time. So the sound that we hear from Noel during these concerts is, I think, 99% of time coming from 2 amplifiers. Now, maybe we're onto something here, because I've made a few videos in the past already where I always said that Noel uses 2 amplifiers or 2 or more amplifiers for Nebworth. I myself have a setup going on with more than 1 amplifier. Maybe, just maybe, this is the secret to Noel's sound. Not an echo drive, not a Kingsley Page tube boost or whatever pedal. Maybe Noel just likes what a smaller wattage Blues Junior amplifier during They Got Your Soul and High Flying Birds, or nowadays with the Marshall Vintage 20 combo amplifier. Maybe he just likes what this smaller wattage amplifier adds to the beefier 50 watt high watt that alone by itself sounds a bit dark, maybe sounds a bit muddy, at least with the settings that Noel has dialed in there. Next up, I want to briefly mention Noel's solo sound. I think it's the same setup plus the solo button engaged on the board, which also engages the SS2 pedal as well as the DD3. So there's always a rather heavy delay on Noel's solo sound. Now, what about loop junkies? Well, I think the loop junkies do have their own separate amplifiers, and it looks something like that. In this diagram I've slightly scaled down the main guitar signal part of the diagram and added the Civex Lo-Fi loop junkies. I guess they are fed out of the pedal board with their separate output, feeding the 2 high watts plus matching cabinet that are on stage. Maybe they're also having an amp switcher, just in case one of the high watts on stage with Noel fails, they can switch to the other one. Again, backup is key to each and every professional grade concert situation. Now that pretty much wraps up the signal flow part of this video, and now I'll be doing a demonstration using the same or similar gear that Noel has with my own setup, so you can kind of understand where he's coming from, how his sound, how Noel's Live 25 guitar sound is made up, and maybe also for you to hear the amplifiers without any effects, so you can dial in your own amplifier, maybe to have a good bass line and to add some more pedals to your liking to them. Now for my little demo here, I just want to briefly explain my rig that I'm going with. I do have a custom high watt 50 head, as well as a Reinhardt Storm 50 model. The Reinhardt model is more of a Marshall, more of a JCM 800/Plexi type of amplifier. It does have power scaling, so I can reduce the 50 watts down to a desired roughly 20 watts as well. I am personally the lucky owner of one of Noel Gallagher's stage-used pedal boards that he used during High Flying Birds, so I'll be using that as well. For today's demo, I'll be using the Hiwatt in conjunction with the Reinhardt, as well as the SIB Echo Drive, the Kingsley Page Tube Boost, as well as the Keeley Compressor Plus. Now, let's jump right into the demo, and let's start off with the Hiwatt by itself with no pedals whatsoever. This is just the Hiwatt now. Now let's add in the Echo Drive, the Page, as well as the compressor. And that's now just the Hiwatt with all the effects. Sounds pretty decent, right? But maybe it's missing that one secret ingredient, which is the second amplifier. Now I'll be switching back and forth through the amplifiers. I won't be touching the pedals that I engaged. It's the same pedals throughout the next part of the demo. I'll be just switching in and out the amplifiers. Starting with the same sound you heard just a minute ago with the Hiwatt. Now I'll be switching in the Reinhardt and switching out the Hiwatt as well, and so on and so forth. Now let's start. See there how the second amp makes all the difference? Just think of the second amp as just an extended EQ, something that adds value or that adds sound to your first amplifier. And I think this is the secret ingredient, the magic formula to Noel Gallagher's live sound. Now this concludes the rig analysis of Noel's Live 25 gear. Again, none of this is official. I've speculated more than a few times throughout this video. This is just my opinion, yeah, and the way I think Noel's signal chain is comprised. If you have a different opinion or just want to ask a question or want to contribute to the whole picture of the signal flow and so on, just comment down below. I'm always happy to engage with you guys. Now with that, I'm wrapping up this video. Please leave a like, subscribe to this channel, this would help me out immensely, and I'll see you with a new video shortly. Thank you so much, cheers, bye bye.